Hi everyone, and so this is our very first lecture, and so I'm going to try to make this within the 15 minutes. I can't make any promises that that'll be the case, so there might be a part two. Usually I'll record the lectures a little bit ahead of time before I release them for the week. If I can get to the lectures earlier and record them earlier, I will, but that will allow me to at least be able to kind of pace this process. So I want to talk about what is sociology and what is culture. And for this particular case, I'm going to have the textbook open for us so that you can get a sense of what it is that I'm talking about and see the connection to what I'm saying to the textbook directly. I might change this up a little bit and maybe alter some of the things the approach that I take. But for now, it's fine to kind of now. My biggest concern, and any professor's big concern, is that there's a section that we kind of like, are you teaching right out of the textbook? And that's not what I'm doing. I'm using, because this is an online class, I have to use the resources that we have to its maximum capacity. And right now, the textbook is one of the most significant resources that we have. And I'm just showing you in this particular lecture how it's being incorporated and how you should be thinking about it while you're reading the materials. I'm not going to sit here and read this stuff for you. Obviously, there are things that are going to be highlighted that I'm going to point out to you, and please pay attention to the things that are in bold and in italics and that are in quotes. Those are the things that you need to be thinking about and are making sure that you have an understanding of this particular language and that we use and how we use it in sociology. So sociology is one of those areas that can be very exciting, and it could also be very frustrating. And it can be very exciting. Mind you, I'm a sociologist, so I get excited about it. But it can be very exciting because you're learning about patterns within society. You're learning about how things work, how things function. You're seeing how people tend to be able to be easily recognized in how they interact with each other and how they interact within groups, how these groups then interact with other groups, how they interact with institutions, how the institutions interact with each other. And so you could see these things developing. You could see how these things are going to function with each other. And that is really exciting to kind of pay attention to, because it gives you some deep insight when you're trying to make decisions about things unrelated to, for example, sociology. So if you're thinking about how you are organizing your business, if you're thinking about how you're expecting your, for example, patients or clients to come in, all those things are things that sociology can give you some insight on how to think about these things, right? And this class will progress in those ways. So sociology is great that way. One of the most significant terms, and then the frustrating part, of course, is that you get to find out that sociology is, and this is very unfortunate because we come from a society that's very individually driven, right? You think of yourself and you see yourself as an individual, and then as an individual, you can see your connections to your society around you, but the individualistic part of you really holds on to, I am, this is who I am going to be, this is what I do, this is what, and this I idea is very important for us and how we think about the world. How does this affect me? How does this create this thing for me, right? We could think in group dynamics, but that individual way of sensing who we are is extremely important. Sociology says that that's kind of insignificant. That the reality is who you are is kind of driven a lot by those groups around you. And so to have to kind of push away from that sense of I towards a greater understanding of how I am influenced by the society as large, that really is a frustrating thing to kind of put together, right? Because again, our society is built on the notion of the individual. And so, you have to ask yourself questions. Now, you do have to come to terms, but you have to ask yourself questions like, who is responsible for? Is it the individual or is it society at large? Now, you could say the individual has a fault and society has a, but then how do you divide that, right? So these are the kinds of frustrating parts that can make sociology a kind of discipline where you're kind of going, oh, for goodness sakes, what in the world are you talking about? But it is still a very exciting part. And so the idea is to kind of tease those things out so that you have a good understanding of it. For sociology, one of the most important ideas is the sociological imagination. And this, I am telling you, you must understand. And what it means is that you have to understand the distinction between what we describe as troubles and issues. When C. Wright Mills was talking about this, is, his idea, he wrote this in Sociological Promise, and so the idea was that sociology provides us with an ability to be able to get a sense of who we are in an extremely complicated world, in a world in where what we do seems not to have any impact at all whatsoever and detached from the society. And the more complicated society becomes, the more detached as an individual we become. So for example, what are the things that really differentiate you from other people? Right? And you start listing these things, but you understand that a lot of the things you're listing are things that other people are facing. Not only that, but what does it mean to be dealing with something and not understand where this is coming from? So for example, for some people, we can focus on one of the things that becomes important for younger people or people who are at a university setting specifically is student debt, right? A student debt is felt at an individual level, right? So I owe this much and I have to figure out how I'm going to pay this much. So maybe I can find a job that does some sort of reimbursement or some job that helps, pay off this student loan. That is your personal problem, right? That's your trouble. That's the trouble you have to deal with. At a greater idea, right? Society is dealing with the cost of higher education, right? More and more people are going into debt. More and more people are going to have trouble paying off that debt. Not just paying off that debt, but imagine if you're paying your student debt, right? And you're in a 30-year or 20-year program paying that back, right? For those 20 years, you are not going to be able to purchase a house or save money to purchase a house or, maybe buy that brand new car, right? So your ability to be able to engage in the market is also going to be limited. So therefore, the impact that it has on the market at the larger level really affects society as a whole. So it's a societal issue. Not even talking about people who fail to pay their loans back, right? And then how do we deal with, a system where, there's going to be defaults on some of these loans, right? Who covers them? How do we cover it? How do we pay for it? The current system right now is that universities have to put in several $1 million into a federal account that's supposed to offset some of that. But right, that several $1 million are going to be coming out of your pocket because the universities have to make up those several $1 million that they're putting into the system. So now education increases in cost, which increases the amount of loan that you have to take, which increases the risk of defaulting. It's a really bizarre circle, but this is what sociologists think about. Like, at one level you have the person, the individual. At the other level, you have the societal issue. From a personal perspective, understanding sociology and using a sociological lens means that you might face personal troubles, but then you can place them within the greater issue that's happening within society, allowing you to be able to create a connection that connects you to society. And one of the things you're going to find in this class is the significance and importance of being connected. As you read through this, you're going to see that it's going to talk about very different types of things: individualization, socialization, a lot of things that I just covered now. Talk about some of the stuff that we're doing at it. It'll cover some of your theories. I'm going to talk about a couple of theories, but I'm going to leave the other ones because we need to talk about sociological theories, which is the most important thing. So Augustus Comte is seen as the person who kind of helps to initiate modern sociology, sociology in itself, right? And he approaches this thing from a positivistic perspective. This positivism is a particularly important word. It means the notion of being able to look at specific ways in which things are governed, laws that exist, right? Looking at things and as they're shaped. It's got a really, really straightforward way of looking at the world. It's a kind of, the world builds upon itself and it's constantly moving towards something greater. This really is something that, in almost like an evolutionary way, kind of like, but in an evolutionary way, not in the real evolutionary way that just says, hey, you're changing to the environment. This says, oh no, everything is moving forward, becoming better, right? Which is a myth, of kind of a folkloric mythics. It's a false way of looking at. Sorry about that. It's a false way of looking at evolution, but it's very much there. So, and it has impacted the scientific model for a long time, right? Harriet Montague, who's listed as here, she's also done extremely significant work on comparing institutions very early on. I'm going to skip Marx for a second because we have to talk about him with conflict theory, but Herbert Spencer is the person who came out with survival of the fittest, which is not a term that was used by Darwin. This is a term that was used by Herbert Spencer. Herbert Spencer is the person that went around telling people that the reason why rich people are richer is because they're better than poor people, right? The reason why people who are leading is because they're better leaders than people who are not. And this notion of survival of the fittest is extremely important when it comes to understanding, because it has impacted our societies quite a bit, where we have this kind of belief. It leads to this kind of eugenics idea, and these eugenics ideas are something that govern very much how we think about the world around us in our society. Many of people out there do strongly still believe in these ideas, that somehow there is this kind of genetic that exists and that makes certain individuals better than others. It ignores, for example, a lot of the social factors that influence that. So for example, yes, a kid from wealthy parents will probably be better educated and be able to accomplish more than someone who comes from poorer parents. But that has nothing to do with the genetics of the individual. It has to do a lot with the resources that the individuals have. However, Spencer brought on this idea that there is some sort of like this connection, mystic connection, that at the time they didn't quite know how to explain it. They were working with this thing of evolution, and so they were using it in a very problematic way, but it falls into this eugenics movement, and this is where those ideas come from. It comes from Herbert Spencer. I'll talk a little bit about George Simmel, because George Simmel doesn't get talked about enough, but he helps to create the idea of anti-positivism. He's kind of like the person who starts to say, hey, you just can't talk about, positivism as the only way of doing things. He looks at things like structure and society and the individuals in the city life, and his approach is extremely important, and he does a lot of things with group dynamics, which kind of look at sociology at a micro level as opposed to a macro level. Macro meaning large institutions. If you've read the book, that's what you're going to be seeing. Micro meaning individual or group dynamics and how that's different. I'll talk about Durkheim and I'll talk about Weber much, much later on. These are important sociologists, but as you read, right, you'll read about W.B. Du Bois, Veblen, Adams, Cooley, Mead, Robert Park. These are all important sociologists that help to shape modern sociology, and particularly American sociology, which is very specific to us, right? This here then becomes the next most important thing, and I might add a separate video just on the conflict perspective, but you must know the differences between structural functionalism, conflict theory, and symbolic interaction. These are the three most significant theoretical perspectives in sociology. Your book will consistently come back to how do you view things from a theoretical perspective using a functional perspective? How do you look at it from a conflict perspective? How do you look at a symbolic interactions perspective? The three theoretical perspectives provide guidance for the type of lens that we use when we work on sociology. Now, you don't have to select a lens for yourself right now. You just have to know you're not sociologists, you are learning intro to sociology. At my level, yes, we have much more nuanced, complicated theoretical positions that we use in order to articulate our sociological analysis and to describe what's happening at a sociological level. However, they basically come down to these three different types of perspectives. What I need you to know is what these perspectives are, how they view the world, and then what I need you to do is to be able to apply how the different areas in sociology are viewed using these theoretical perspectives. And again, I think I have 3 different videos that I can supply to you that will give you a different way of looking at it through these theoretical views. And of course, if I can find, I have a cheat sheet that I'm going to try to add for this, and this will provide you with a good understanding of this. So read through this material, pay very close attention to it. Take a look at the end, because this provides a good understanding, and this should help you hopefully with the rest. of this course. Thank you.